Earnings-palooza, chameleons, cockroaches, and a rare rock nugget. Welcome to the Unlimited Supply Podcast, your daily music business TLDR in your ear, powered by a constant onslaught of stuff to be parsed, and brought to you by No Disc, helping music, technology, and finance companies navigate the music industry in partnership with Digital Music News. It's August 8th, 2025. I'm Lars Murray. It's Finance Friday. But before we dive into the shallow money trench, last week we talked about the Record Store Day Summer Camp gathering in New Orleans. We didn't expect much news to come out of it, but over at Billboard, Ed Christman diligently reported on the event, and some news actually came out of it. Recently, when we were talking about Universal Music's earnings report, we noted that UMG Physical was down year over year due to a Taylor Swift bubble that inflated the numbers in 2024. Well, turns out we were right. According to the presentation from Luminate at the conference, the so-called Taylor effect is real. So while vinyl sales are down 3.2% year over year so far, when you factor out all of that 2024 Taylor vinyl, things are still moving in the right direction. Ed's piece also includes a rare nugget of good news for rock, which reportedly accounts for a punching above its weight 45% of vinyl sales. And the final nugget that had flown under my radar, last year Luminate angered the indie community when it severely reduced its weighting of reports from indie stores. Somewhere along the way, Luminate rectified this situation so we can remove one source of controversy and friction from the ever-messy physical music sector. Now let's dive into the shallow money trench where thieves and pimps run free. Well, it was Earnings-palooza this week, with no fewer than 5 major music companies reporting their Q2 earnings. And despite a lot of generalized anxiety in the world economy, it looks like music once again marches to its own beat. It is, after all, relatively tariff-proof, so all of the turmoil of the global trade war flies right past it. But also in general, music has a long history of defying downturns and also sitting out the booms. Let's start with Live Nation. They reported a 16% year-over-year growth rate. There has been a lot of talk about crises and downturns in live music, with disappearing festivals, tour cancellations, and even weather events challenging that live business, not to mention government scrutiny and public outrage over ticketing fees. Despite all of this, Live Nation had a bumper quarter. This doesn't mean that the independent live sector, the little guys, is healthy, but it does suggest that Live Nation has gotten very good at extracting the maximum revenue from the stuff it controls, which is, well, not everything. It's bigger events and ticketing in general. Consumers squawk, but when it comes right down to it, they are paying up whether they can afford it or not. Glenn Peoples has the details over at Billboard. As for the labels and publishers, I'm going to stay out of the increasingly complex weeds of the individual reports with their constant currency modifiers and other accounting sorcery. All of the companies reporting this week, Sony Music, Warner Music, HYBE, and Reservoir, reported single-digit growth year over year. There are a few patterns. The days of double-digit streaming growth increasingly appear to be over in the U.S. Streaming growth is mostly coming from outside of the U.S., Europe, and Japan, but call them chameleons, call them cockroaches. The always adaptable majors are at least facing these changes to a standstill. Also, of the artists cited in Warner's and Sony's reports, we're seeing a lot more Rosies and Bad Bunnies, that is, artists with huge international followings, as the earning report headliners, and fewer Beyoncés, Billies, Miley's, and even Sabrinas, though that may be down to individual cycles. Still, it's not a coincidence that ex-US growth is coming from artists spawned outside the continental US. Yes, I know, and you should remember that Bad Bunny is as American as J.D. Vance, but he's not from the continental U.S. The labels are adjusting accordingly. HYBE, of course, comes from that global elsewhere, and despite its legal battles and relative softness in recorded music, this quarter it had good results. Remember, HYBE and the other K-pop labels have been especially cycle-sensitive, and yet HYBE continues to write the script for the industry in terms of maxing out 360-degree revenue with its live music interests and its Weverse direct-to-fan platform. Most of HYBE's first half growth came from live shows as they await their next BTS releases. If you're looking for the detailed HYBE breakdown, Elizabeth Dilts Marshall has all the goods at Billboard. If you're looking for the detailed Warner breakdown, check out Tim Ingham's Music Business Worldwide coverage. As for Sony, Dylan Smith has the analysis over at Digital Music News. Publishers like Reservoir are seeing softening streaming growth, but working on new revenue streams like immersive events. And while Reservoir is not in the black yet, the path to get there now seems clear. Daniel Tencer did the detail over at Music Business Worldwide. And in one final earnings call note, it looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel for Sonos, the provider of home audio systems. Recently, they made Tom Conrad, formerly their interim CEO, their permanent CEO. And while Sonos still has some work to do in fixing their app, the company hit its guidance for the quarter, and their stock actually started to move up, which is good news for those of us who are heavily invested in a Sonos ecosystem. Though apparently Sonos' good news is not newsworthy, none of the major outlets covered it. Moving on from Earnings-palooza, the music rights gold rush generated another headline this week as artist finance provider BeatBread announced a $124 million war chest raised from the almighty Citigroup. For many of the reasons noted above, music looks like a safe haven right now for enormous piles of cash. In the streaming era, rights ownership is fairly straightforward and it's predictable. The rights derivative business, which is essentially the business that BeatBread is in, unless it's not, is a lot less straightforward. In theory, all of this money flowing into music rights and music rights derivatives should benefit artists and songwriters. We'll see about that. Elizabeth Dilts Marshall has the BeatBread war chest story over at Billboard. And that's another Finance Friday. Support for the Unlimited Supply podcast is provided by Music Services, a division of CSAC Music Group. Music Services is pioneering technology, licensing, and administration solutions to meet the growing needs of record labels and music publishers worldwide. If you're wondering what exactly Music Services does, my interviews with John Rasso and Lynn Lowe discussing just that are in the feed. For more on Music Services, visit musicservices.com. And by Hangout.fm. Hangout by Turntable Labs, Inc. is the new social listening platform where users connect, discover new music, and play over 100 million songs with their friends and family. Our Unlimited Supply Song of the Week comes from the Beths. It came out about a month ago. I missed it completely during my recuperation, which is a shame because the song was called No Joy, and it was rather appropriate for my recuperation. Anyway, another power pop gem from the pride of New Zealand. Check it out in the Unlimited Supply playlist on Spotify and Amazon Music. I can't include the actual song in the podcast unless somebody gives me a waiver. And hey, promo guys, any waiver will count in favor. But I can make the choice and link it in the show notes, so go listen. If you like what you hear, please hit that follow button wherever you get your pods. I live for your praise and encouragement in person, but it helps a lot more if you drop us a rating and or a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify, and tell a friend or three, preferably 21 times, because according to marketing whiz Susie Schultz, it now takes not 5, but 21 times for anything to sink in. Links are in the show notes, but you can also visit unlimitedsupplypod.com to sign up for our newsletter, to tell us what you think about the show, to suggest feature ideas, to feed us info, to feed us lunch, to call us out on our dubious assertions, and to tell us what we're missing out on. In the words of the great philosopher Eduardo Rivadavia, don't let your short-term greed get in the way of your long-term greed. And remember, in this business, no conflict means no interest.